A justice revenge thriller. The fall of the Sentinel, the betrayal. The rain in Ethelberg never washed the city clean, it just polished the grime. Detective Alexander "Alex" Thorne knew this better than anyone. For 10 years, he had been the sentinel of the Metropolitan Police, known for his unyielding moral compass and a knack for solving cases too politically charged for others to touch. His current investigation, Operation Hydra, was the most volatile of all. It targeted a high-level syndicate, a triumvirate of power comprising a crime boss, a senior police officer, and a prosecutor, who manipulated warrants, doctored evidence, and ran the city's underground economy with impunity. Alex was close to nailing the police element, his mentor, Captain Marcus Vance. The fatal night began with a frantic call. An informant, Elias the Weasel Finch, had agreed to testify. Alex met him in a dimly lit warehouse on the docks, a place where the city's rot truly festered. "They know, Thorne. Vance, he's running the whole thing. The list, the ledger, it's all in a safety deposit box. Key is a statue in his office. You have to move now," Elias whispered, his eyes wide with genuine fear. Submerged, Alex felt a cold dread, not just from the damp warehouse air, but from the shattering of a decade-long bond. Before Alex could respond, the silence was ripped apart by a muffled gunshot. Elias collapsed, a crimson stain blossoming across his chest. Alex spun, drawing his sidearm, but he was too late. Two masked figures vanished into the gloom. He knelt beside Elias, checking for a pulse that wasn't there. Then, a voice, calm and lethal, sliced through the air. "Drop the weapon, Thorne." Captain Vance emerged from the shadows, flanked by two uniformed officers Alex had never seen before. Vance wasn't masked. He was wearing the serene, disappointed expression of a father catching a child in a petty lie. "Marcus, what the hell are you doing? Elias was hit. He just told me you were involved." Vance cut him off with a gesture of profound pity. "Pathetic, Alex. Truly pathetic. You got greedy. That informant was going to blow everything, wasn't he? And you decided to silence him and take his payoff." It was a perfect, sickening reversal. Vance pointed toward a briefcase tucked under a stack of crates, a briefcase that wasn't there 2 minutes ago, now overflowing with marked, non-sequential bills. The uniformed officers, clearly part of Vance's web, were already positioning their body cameras to frame the scene. "We found him standing over the body, Captain. Money on the ground. Looks like a cleanup job gone wrong," one officer stated flatly, performing for the camera. Vance walked closer, his voice low enough for Alex only. "You should have been loyal, Alex. We could have owned this city together. But you chose morality. Morality doesn't sign warrants or fix juries. Now, you're the dirty cop, the fall guy." Within an hour, Alex was in custody. The evidence was irrefutable, flawlessly manufactured. The planted cash, powder residue on his hands from the struggle with the masked men, and a hastily crafted confession that suggested Elias was a loose end Alex tried to tie up for a drug cartel. Prosecutor Evelyn Reed. Evelyn was the golden girl of the district attorney's office, known for her sharp mind and even sharper political ambitions. Alex had once respected her. Now, she was the state's attorney assigned to his case. In the sterile interrogation room, she leaned in, her eyes cold. "I saw the evidence, Alex. It's overwhelming. You made a deal with the cartel, didn't you? We always thought you were too good to be true." He saw the lie in her eyes, the calculation. She was protecting Vance, protecting her own rise, or maybe she was one of the triumvirate herself. He realized the corruption didn't just taint the police, it was the system. "You're wrong, Evelyn. Vance framed me. He's the head of Hydra." She smiled, a cold, empty expression. "You'll have plenty of time to work on your conspiracy theories, Detective Thorne. 20 years to life, minimum. Enjoy the view from the inside." The trial was a sham. Every piece of evidence Alex needed was suppressed. Every witness he requested intimidated into silence. Evelyn Reed delivered a surgical, damning closing argument. Alexander Thorne, the Sentinel, was convicted of murder and corruption. The system had cannibalized its own honest cell. He was just another victim of a wrongfully accused revenge plot orchestrated by those sworn to justice. The ghost rises, the transformation. The state penitentiary, known as the Scar, was a brutal crucible. The first 6 months were a blur of violence and despair. Alex, trained to enforce the law, was now surrounded by those who hated it and, by extension, him. His former badge was a target painted on his back. He endured 2 severe beatings, the last one nearly fatal, before his police instincts, the primal urge to survive, resurfaced, sharper and colder than before. He stopped being Alex Thorne, the man who believed in justice. He started becoming a student of his environment. He adopted a new persona, silent, observant, and deadly when necessary. His body transformed, lean muscle replaced his bulk, and a network of scars mapped his new identity. More importantly, his mind turned clinical. He knew he couldn't beat the system from the outside. He had to use the inside. The education of the Spectre. Combating Alex recognized that his prison term was a forced research fellowship. His targets, Vance, Reed, and the unseen power behind them, were protected by the law, money, and data. He had to master all 3. 1. The law, Evelyn Reed's domain. He devoured the prison law library, studying case precedents, statutes, and the administrative loopholes used by corrupt prosecutors like Reed. He learned how evidence could be legally suppressed and how to construct a case that was unassailable, not just factually, but procedurally. 2. The money, the broker's domain. Alex sought out a renowned financial criminal, a convicted stock market manipulator named the Curator, who taught him the dark arts of offshore trusts, shell corporations, and digital currency laundering. He learned to track money through the deep web, finding the invisible ties that bound the syndicate. 3. The data, the core weakness. His most crucial skill came from a young, quiet hacker named Kai. Alex protected Kai from prison bullies, and in return, Kai taught him advanced network penetration, anonymization techniques, and how to build invisible digital footprints. He became adept at exploiting legacy government databases and using open-source intelligence, OSINT, to map the real-world movements and digital lives of his targets. Snick, 2 years passed. Alex was no longer a man. He was an algorithm of vengeance, a creature honed by the system's failure. He grew a thick, wild beard, his eyes hardened to chips of granite, and his identity was reduced to a singular, cold purpose, to make the architects of his ruin watch their empire crumble. He named his new identity the Spectre, a ghost of the justice system, returning to haunt its failures. The escape, the art of vanishing. Alex's escape plan was elegant in its simplicity and brutality in its execution. It wasn't about breaking out, it was about dissolving into the void. He targeted the prison's outdated medical record system. Kai, using a smuggled micro-device, planted a specific malware payload weeks earlier. Suppressing on a rainy Tuesday, Alex faked a massive internal hemorrhage. The prison doctor, overworked and complacent, checked the fabricated medical data, a profile indicating a rare, untraceable blood infection. The protocol for such a biohazard case was immediate transfer to a specialized, remote facility outside the city limits. 1. The transfer was executed at 3 a.m. Alex, weak but awake, was shackled to a gurney in the back of an unmarked van, guarded by 2 minimum security officers. As the van navigated the winding, fog-choked coastal road 20 miles from Ethelberg, Alex triggered the second part of his plan. He'd spent months collecting tiny shards of metal, sharpened pieces of a spoon handle, filings from his cell door. During the transfer, he had feigned unconsciousness, using his teeth and practiced dexterity to saw through the thin, plasticized zip ties on his wrists, replacing them with custom knots designed to break under slight pressure. He waited for the precise moment the van hit a blind corner. Alex broke the knots and, in a flash of terrifying efficiency, used the small metal blade he'd hidden in his cheek to slit the tires of the van from the inside storage bay. The vehicle spun violently, skidding off the road and slamming into the thick mud. The two guards, disoriented and wounded, were easy prey for the detective who knew every move they were trained to make. Alex didn't kill them. That was Vance's style. He neutralized them with precise, non-lethal strikes to the head and neck, leaving them chained to the steering wheel unconscious. He then executed the final, crucial step, the disappearance of Alex Thorne. He doused the van's interior with ethanol taken from the medical supply, planted a discarded piece of his bloodied, prison-issued shirt near the edge of the cliff, and lit the interior ablaze. He rolled the van toward the drop-off point. The subsequent explosion and plunge into the freezing harbor waters would seal the narrative. Alex Thorne attempted a desperate escape and died in the process. A gruesome death, but a clean one for the system. Alex, now the Spectre, watched the fiery wreckage from the shelter of the dense coastal forest, his old life consumed by the flames. He was officially dead. The wrongfully accused revenge was about to begin. 9. The systemic dismantling, the reckoning. The Spectre established his sanctuary in the forgotten underbelly of Ethelberg, a decommissioned subterranean civil defense bunker beneath a crumbling textile mill. It was untraceable, off-grid, and wired with equipment scavenged from legitimate decommissioned tech yards. From this silent hub, he began Operation Hydra II. His methodology was simple: use the law, money, and data as weapons against his targets, hitting them where they were strongest yet most vulnerable. Phase 1. Isolating the muscle, Captain Marcus Vance. Amended. Marcus Vance was protected by his badge and a network of loyal, corrupt officers. To take down Vance, the Spectre couldn't use external police. He had to use Vance's own corruption against him, creating chaos and mistrust within the syndicate. The setup. Vance was currently running a lucrative protection racket for a new drug import route involving 3 separate criminal families: the Vipers, the Sentinels, and the Black Hand. Vance was skimming a massive cut from all 3, promising exclusive police protection. The action. The Spectre executed a 3-pronged digital assault designed to look like a hyper-efficient rival. 1. The digital theft. Alex used Kai's hacking techniques to penetrate Vance's encrypted personal ledger, not to expose it, but to slightly alter the payment records. He subtracted a few $100,000 from the amounts Vance reported receiving from the Vipers and added that exact amount to the reported payments from the Sentinels. 2. The physical plant. Using his old detective skills, Alex meticulously tracked Vance's current safe house. Under cover of a severe storm, he infiltrated the location. He planted a micro-tracker on a unique emerald ring that Vance frequently wore, a gift from the Black Hand boss. 3. The delivery. The Spectre then used a highly sophisticated voice synthesizer, trained on Vance's voice from old police recordings, to place anonymous burn phone calls to the leaders of the Vipers and the Black Hand, informing them that Vance was double-crossing them and selling their routes exclusively to the Sentinels. He cited the proof of the altered ledger and mentioned the location of the safe house. The result was immediate and explosive. The Vipers and the Black Hand, already wary of each other, launched a coordinated attack on Vance's safe house. It wasn't a police matter. It was a gang war. Vance and his crew were caught in a brutal crossfire, a full-blown crime-revenge thriller breakout, but he was not injured, merely terrified and discredited. Vance was hauled into the precinct, battered and furious. He was officially investigated, not for corruption, but for failing to control an illegal organized crime situation on his watch. He realized someone was targeting him. Thickness the Spectre's ups and downs. Ups. Vance was isolated, stripped of his authority over the precinct, and had lost the trust of the crime families. He was a cornered animal. Downs. Vance was too well protected legally. Evelyn Reed, acting swiftly, intervened. She used her influence to squash the internal affairs investigation, citing unsubstantiated gang rumors. Vance walked free, bruised but still breathing. The Spectre knew the target had to be the legal shield next. Phase 2. Undermining the shield. Prosecutor Evelyn Reed. Evelyn Reed was driven by ambition and protected by her flawless professional veneer. She was immune to street-level crimes, but vulnerable to career-destroying scandal and ethical breaches. The setup. Reed's corruption was hidden in her oldest cases, the ones that launched her career. The Spectre needed a lever to pry open her past. He focused on the suppression of exculpatory evidence in her most high-profile victory, the conviction of an innocent man named David Keller 10 years prior. The action. The Spectre engaged a struggling, idealistic investigative journalist named Sarah Chen, who had been trying to expose judicial misconduct for years without success. He sent Sarah an encrypted thumb drive labeled Keller Case Review. It contained meticulously sourced, anonymized data. 1. Old metadata, original GPS coordinates from Keller's supposed getaway car, which proved he was miles away from the crime scene, metadata that Reed had filed away and never submitted. 2. Witness testimony drafts, scanned documents showing Reed had substantially edited a key witness's statement, changing "I think I saw" to "I definitively saw." 3. The pattern. A cross-referenced database of every case Reed had prosecuted, highlighting cases with similar patterns of suppressed evidence and suspiciously fast convictions. The data was too perfect, too devastating to ignore. Sarah Chen, operating under a code of silence with her anonymous source, published the story. The systemic blind spot. Did prosecutor Evelyn Reed trade justice for ambition? The political fallout was immediate. The state Supreme Court announced an immediate review of the Keller case. The State Bar Association launched an ethics inquiry into Reed's conduct. Her perfect career was in flames. The Spectre's ups and downs. Ups. Reed was distracted, disgraced, and facing disbarment. Her power to protect Vance evaporated. The system, once her fortress, was now attacking her. David Keller was granted a new trial. Downs. Reed was smart. She immediately realized the source wasn't a random hacker or a disgruntled clerk. The specificity of the evidence, the focus on her career-launching cases, the intensity. It was personal. It was someone with an intimate knowledge of her history, someone she had wronged. She remembered Alex Thorne. She mobilized her resources, hiring a ruthless, highly trained private security contractor, Phoenix Aegis, led by an ex-Black Ops operative named Anya Petrova. The hunter was now being hunted. 1. The broker and the final implosion. Magnesium. The arrival of Anya Petrova and Phoenix Aegis changed the rules of the game. Vance was muscle, Reed was law, but Anya was precision. She didn't follow evidence, she followed patterns of resentment and betrayal. Within a week, she correctly deduced that the person targeting them was Alex Thorne, officially dead, operating as the Spectre. Nicknamed the Chase, the Hunter, and the Ghost. Anya was relentless. She used sophisticated triangulation software, tracking IP signals that Alex, in his hubris, believed were perfectly masked. She found the signature of the Kai-designed malware in the prison network, a digital ghost print, and followed its breadcrumbs to the general vicinity of the old textile mill. The confrontation. Anya and a 4-man team ambushed the mill. The Spectre was ready. He had anticipated being found once Reed was cornered. Brighton became a claustrophobic battlefield, a mix of suspense and high-octane action. Alex, moving through the dusty, echoing machinery, used his environment and his knowledge of police tactics, CQB, flashbang deployment, cover and move, against the heavily armed mercenaries. Alex utilized the old textile conveyor system to move silently above them. He used flares and strategically placed water traps to disable their night vision gear. He planted small, non-lethal electrical charges on handrails and pipes to disrupt their formation. The fight lasted 40 minutes. Alex, moving like the shadow he was, took out 3 of the 4 team members using gas and non-lethal takedowns. Anya, however, was his match. Their final confrontation took place in the bunker's main access shaft. "You're too good, Spectre," Anya grunted, her breath catching as she dodged a pipe wrench Alex swung. "You move like a ghost. Ex-military?" "Ex-cop," Alex replied, his voice a low rasp. "I just learned from the best. My victims." Alex pinned Anya to the ground, but he didn't deliver the final blow. He needed her to be the messenger. He planted a listening device on her comms rig and vanished back into the complex's ventilation system, leaving her wounded but alive. The down. Alex's base was compromised. He had to abandon his sanctuary, losing years of accumulated data and surveillance equipment. He was now truly exposed, with no fallback position, but he had gained one crucial piece of information: the name of the true mastermind. Anya's final transmission to Reed was intercepted. "The broker wants the target terminated. He's too close to the source." The revelation: Senator Silas Kane. Alex knew the broker wasn't just a crime boss. They had to be the pinnacle of Ethelberg's political establishment, the one who could make Vance a captain and shield Reed from any inquiry. He focused his remaining digital resources on one target: Senator Silas Kane, the untouchable elder statesman of the city, currently campaigning for governor on a law and order platform. Alex hacked into Kane's campaign finances, tracing the complex flow of money from Vance's protection rackets and Reed's questionable legal settlements. The trail ended in a series of anonymous trusts: Trust Alpha, Trust Beta, Trust Gamma. All were managed by a small, obscure financial firm based in the Cayman Islands. The link was finally established. Senator Kane wasn't just involved in the syndicate. He was the syndicate, using the police and the DA's office as his personal enforcement arm. It was a terrifying realization. His wrongfully accused revenge was not against 2 bad apples, but against the tree of the entire political and legal system. Invoked: the final gambit, zero-sum exposure. Alex knew the police couldn't arrest Kane, and the courts couldn't prosecute him. He owned the jurisdiction. The only way to win this justice-revenge story was to use the one weapon Kane couldn't control: public truth. Kane's final gubernatorial rally was scheduled for the Ethelberg Civic Square, a massive, televised event designed to solidify his image as the city's savior. The preparation. Alex used his remaining funds to purchase specialized electronic hardware. He spent 3 days in a hidden bolt hole preparing his masterpiece, the Black Ledger. This was a compilation of every piece of digital dirt he had collected on Kane, Vance, and Reed: wiretap transcripts, bank transfers, doctored warrants, and, most damningly, the original, untouched surveillance footage that proved Alex Thorne's innocence and Vance's guilt in the Elias Finch murder. The action. The climax. On the night of the rally, the Civic Square was jammed. Television cameras broadcast Kane's speech live to the entire state. Alex, disguised in a campaign worker's jacket, moved through the crowded rooftops across the square from the stage. Kane was in full flow, speaking of restoring trust and cleaning up the city. At precisely 8:30 p.m., Alex initiated the final sequence. He deployed a multi-frequency transmitter hidden inside a standard equipment case. This device was designed to hijack the massive LED screen behind Kane and the digital broadcast signals of every major network covering the event. "Yeah." Mid-sentence, as Kane promised to be tough on crime, the LED screen flickered and then went black. A moment of bewildered silence fell over the crowd. Quadran, the screen flashed to life, displaying a single, stark image: a digitized version of Alex Thorne's face, overlaid with the text, "Alexander Thorne, wrongfully accused." Deported decks were now controlled by the Spectre. The screen switched to a scroll of text, a real-time, highly detailed narrative. The truth of the Finch murder. The Vance Reed Syndicate. The broker is Kane. Confiscated, enraged, shouted into the microphone, "This is the work of a criminal, a killer trying to sabotage justice." But the crowd and the cameras were fixed on the screen. The Spectre began to feed the core evidence, spreadsheets detailing millions in illegal campaign contributions linked to Trust Alpha and Trust Beta. Then, the ultimate proof, the original, high-resolution surveillance footage of the warehouse murder of Elias Finch. The footage clearly showed Vance standing over the informant's body, not Alex. It showed Evelyn Reed's signature on the doctored warrant used to plant evidence. The footage ended, replaced by a final message: "The system is a lie. The truth is the key." Reserve, pale and sweating, tried to regain control, but it was too late. The Spectre had done what no law, no honest cop, and no court could. He had exposed the core corruption to the entire world, live and unedited. The final, elegant twist: Alex had created an encrypted link to the full Black Ledger, thousands of documents, wiretaps, and testimonies, and broadcast the link on the screen. The encryption was complex, designed to take years to break. However, during the broadcast, the Spectre simultaneously sent an anonymous message to Sarah Chen, the journalist. "The key to the ledger is the one thing they wanted to forget: 11/4/20XX, the date of the framing." Sarah, live on air reporting the chaos, received the message and instantly understood. She announced the key to the ledger on camera. The documents, including every detail of the syndicate, were now decrypted and public. The rally dissolved into pandemonium. Police, the honest ones, descended on the scene. Kane was detained on the spot by federal agents who had been monitoring the broadcast. Vance and Reed, watching the broadcast from separate locations, were arrested within the hour. The Spectre had won. Epilogue: The Ghost in the Machine. Weeks later, the city was in turmoil. Senator Kane, Captain Vance, and Evelyn Reed were all in custody, facing unprecedented charges of racketeering, murder, and systemic judicial fraud. David Keller was exonerated and released. The system had begun to clean itself, forced by the sheer, undeniable weight of public truth. Alex Thorne, however, remained officially dead. The Spectre, a figure of myth and terror, was officially deemed a fugitive responsible for massive disruption of city infrastructure. In a small, clean apartment in a new city, Alex sat in front of a monitor displaying Sarah Chen's newest article, which championed the cause of the man who had exposed the truth, even if his identity was a mystery. Form of wrongfully accused revenge. He hadn't killed his enemies, he had simply made the system they trusted consume them. He hadn't destroyed the justice system, he had saved it from itself. Clang Alex ran a hand over his clean-shaven face, touching the faint scars from the scar. He was no longer Alex Thorne, the victim, nor was he fully the Spectre, the avenger. He was simply a man with unparalleled knowledge of how the system worked and how to fix it. He opened a secured, anonymous chat channel. A message flashed on the screen. "Ethelberg is cleaned. Where to next?" Alex smiled, a rare, cold expression of pure purpose. He typed a single city name, a city known for its shadows, its political corruption, and its need for a quiet ghost to put things right. The game was over. The mission had just begun. He was the Spectre, and he would ensure that true justice, not corrupt legality, always prevailed.